Welcome into our lives.
And welcome to the Expanders Club podcast.
We're so happy to have you.
Join us as we embark on a journey of deep exploration, soul searching, and asking the hard questions.
With the goal of truly understanding the most aligned, empowered, and purposeful versions of ourselves.
We want to live an extraordinary life, and we're willing to dig deep to find out what it takes.
Buckle up. You're about to meet a new version of yourself, an extraordinary one.
Welcome, everyone, to the Expanders Club podcast. We are so happy to have you here today. I am Maddie.
And my name is Brooke, and we're here to talk all things evolution, expansion, journey, self-love, self-care, health, wellness, you know, kind of you name it. We have a wide variety of interests, all in the name of empowerment, betterment, living our fullest and biggest life.
It's all part of it. Every little piece so that we can continue to live this very expansive life.
Yeah. And how are you doing lately, Maddie? I'm like in a really good place, but I'm like kind of trying to assess. We just saw each other we saw each other 3 days ago, but like we just spent some time together traveling last week. I'm literally a different person than I was when I left you. Like shit is moving fast.
What happened?
So much has happened. And also I feel like I'm in this really interesting place of non-reactivity, I guess, and kind of observation. I feel like I'm kind of just like standing here and a lot of shit's moving around me, coming toward me, orbiting, and I'm just like observing, processing, taking a little here or there, but like not really reacting, which, as you know, is a little bit of a different mode for me. And I just feel like I'm learning and taking things in so quickly right now.
I agree. I mean, I'm happy to hear that. I feel the same. Things are happening at a way faster pace. I feel this change in the air. Life is really starting to deliver. And when you kind of just let it in, or maybe don't even overthink it, it comes.
Yeah.
And I've been known to overthink. But I am about to step into a particularly expansive stage. As you know, I'm going away for 14 days this week, completely off the grid to, as some of you might know, the Hoffman process. And I expect to come back pretty different too. Pretty different. I'm ready for it.
I'm excited for you. Can you tell us just real quick what the Hoffman process is for anyone who doesn't know?
Yeah, I would definitely suggest looking it up because I feel, or at least I'll be able to explain it better when I get back. But from what I know, I mean, it's a 7-day intensive and you're very much working through all of your learned patterns, beliefs, everything you gained from your childhood and your family patterns, whether that's like as far as you want to go, your childhood trauma, and even things, if you don't think anything major happened to you in your life, just like every little thing along the way that taught you to be who you are today and that you've learned a pattern to keep yourself safe. And everyone I've spoken to who has gone has said they've come back just an even better person than before. So I'm so ready to just like surrender and see what it's got to offer.
Yeah. What an opportunity. I was trying to think of like, because this, like what you're going into feels very familiar to me, but I don't think I've had the opportunity in life to like take real time out and like go on a journey like that. I think the only thing I've like have to compare to is like, I guess every time I would fundraise, I would like look at that as like a chapter in a journey where I was like getting through something and knowing that it was going to trigger all kinds of shit for me, all kinds of trauma and, you know, worthiness stuff and all the things that does. So I was trying to figure out like, yeah, I don't have anything to relate to necessarily like directly one-on-one with this. So
yeah, I think it feels really different. And also it's not the easiest thing to go into. Like you're pushing yourself into the uncomfortable, which is probably the same as like, yeah, stepping into a round of funding. Like there's going to be good on the other side, but going through it is hard. And so
Yeah.
you have to be at that stage where you're just willing to put yourself through it. And I've been getting pings that it's like, it's time. I've been wanting to do this for years, but I just, all of a sudden, I was like, oh, now's the time. Which, speaking of trusting my gut, which is what I learning to do very much so. Whenever I hear something and I feel something, I'm like, okay, what is this telling me? I need to follow this.
Yes.
And this is what we talk about in the episode today with Sammie Mancine, a good friend of mine. She is a holistic nutritionist and practitioner, a nurse practitioner, but she does a lot of like health coaching one-on-one. And she's been on her own health journey, and she really learned to listen to her gut and take control of her own health. And that's a lot of what she speaks to. And I mean, Brooke, we speak to this so much, just listening to your gut, both physically and mentally, like to guide you in life and also to guide you in health.
Yeah, I think it's such an important tool, and I laugh because I'm kind of in the chapter of life where I'm much more diving into. I've got a lot of the health stuff down and figured out, and like, trust me, that was a long and shitty journey. Wasn't like I knew how to be healthy overnight. But now looking at the gut more from a spiritual and intuition side, but you can't do any of these things. It's such a confusing and exciting world right now where you're on Instagram, and if you have a feed like mine, you're literally scrolling and it's like, here's how you manifest this, here's how you lose weight. It's like all these tips and pointers for like how you find your life purpose, how you live a better life, how you manifest money, how you get your dream partner. And it's like none of that is possible unless you have the foundation of your own health, your own gut that is telling you, is like giving you the signals and giving you the information. Unless your gut and your body are healthy, like, you're not manifesting anything. And even the things you're thinking of that you want are coming from an unhealthy place. So if you are manifesting something, it's like not what the truest, best version of you actually wants. It's from this unhealthy place. This conversation is just so important.
Yeah, and I think on that, like learning to actually connect with yourself and be able to listen to yourself. Like you can only hear what your gut's saying if you're able to slow down and connect with yourself enough to understand it. Like it takes practice. I know my gut was telling me many things when I was younger, but I would, showing up in my gut inflammation, showing up in my skin issues, but I was just young and partying and not focusing on that kind of thing. I was like,
yes,
well, I'll just, drink through the stomach pain, whereas now it's like you just feel so, you have to learn to connect to yourself to hear it.
Well, and it's such how you feed yourself, how you take care of yourself at that foundational level is such a reflection of self-love and self-care, how much you actually care for yourself, how much you respect yourself. If you can't take care of yourself at the very basic level of like how you feed yourself, how you fuel yourself, how you move your body, making time for those things, like what does that say about the level of respect that you have for yourself?
Oh my God, exactly. That's such a huge part of it. Yeah, self-love, you're spot on. That's like been such a journey because you're just like people pleasing and doing what you think you should do. But as soon as you decide to choose yourself, that is when you can actually realize and connect to yourself.
I love Sammie's perspective and experience because coming from the traditional medicine world, I think that like for some people, they want that validation in a practitioner or someone who's helping them through their health journey. So I think it's great she has that validation and also what she saw. And for me, the most validating thing about her is she saw that and was like, what the hell is going on? Yeah. There has to be a better way to do this.
I know at such a young age, she knew better. She's like, nah, I'm doing it my way. And like, for better or worse, her stubbornness has got her far.
Yeah, well, and it's a theme we're seeing a lot in our episodes, and certainly the last episode of Human Design, talking about Kelly and her wellness journey and her fertility journey is like, you have to be your own health advocate. You have to trust your intuition. You have to trust your gut. No one is like knows yourself, your body, and no one cares about it more than you do. So like it is definitely a theme in people who are overcoming things, stepping into themselves, is like that trust and empowerment of themselves.
So true. So true. Yeah, this one, I really like Sammie's story. Yeah, she's got a great message.
Well, one of the things that I loved too that you guys get into is kind of like the easiest things to do. So like what would you say? I know you're a coach and you're talking to people all the time, like kind of at different levels of their journey. But you guys talked about like getting into nature, making sure you're eating nourishing foods. Like what are the top 3 things that someone who is listening to this and they're like, hey, I'm ready to make a change. Maybe I'm not fully ready to get a coach or like commit to anything financial, but like what 3 things could someone do immediately that they would feel an impact and be inspired?
What I hear my clients wanting the most, or at least this is where they start. They're like, I want to be able to cook for myself more. I want to be able to prepare my food, but I just don't know where to start. And I think this was the start of my health journey, was actually learning what's in my food and starting to be so much more aware of what I was eating. And that meant preparing food for myself rather than eating out, rather than eating packaged food. It was just really, really controlling whatever it was that I put in my body and recognizing when something feels good and when something doesn't. And so taking control of your diet in the kitchen, starting in the kitchen, and it can just be so simple, but just knowing what you're putting in your body is a really big step. And almost like keeping a food journal, like being like recognizing when something doesn't make you feel good and when it does, because that's that's how you learn to recognize what feels good and what doesn't.
And a lot of it really comes down to, I think, taking the time, being willing to set aside the time to learn or grocery shop, because it's not like rocket science, right? It's like, hey, did it grow in nature? Does it have a bunch of weird things on the label? Like, one of these things is good, one of them is bad. And also we have so much access to recipes. Like, I'm going to call bullshit on anyone who says that they like don't know where to start in cooking in their kitchen, because my husband has figured it out from Instagram. Like he sees these Instagram videos, he sees cottage cheese pancakes, cottage cheese ice cream. I mean, this dude's making everything out of cottage cheese flatbread. And he's just following these recipes he sees on Instagram. And let me tell you, a few years ago, he had never even cooked pasta before. So like boiling water and putting pasta in. So if he can do it, guys, you can do it.
It can be done. It can be done. I think it can seem very not like, it can seem really hard to achieve or like, what's the word I'm trying to think of? Intimidating. It can feel really intimidating when you just see people cooking these amazing meals, and people who are in the health space, they look like they're pros and chefs, but it's really not about that. It's like it can be so simple, and yeah, you can easily follow a recipe. I would also say, sleep is just so big, because if you can get good sleep, like I know when I'm tired, when we're tired, we cannot make good decisions for ourselves. The days that I'm so tired, they're the days that I'm not sticking to my good habits and I'm not making good choices for myself. Not exercising as much, I'm not eating as well, I'm scrolling more, I'm not as productive, and then it's like a downward spiral. And so if you're actually wanting to take control of your health, then it's like, okay, get the good sleep so you can wake up feeling refreshed and make good decisions.
Yeah, absolutely.
And number 3, find movement that you love doing, because you're only going to do it if you love doing it. And you don't want it to have to be forced, because if you're like, oh my God, I have to wake up and go to do weights or go on a treadmill or go for a run in the morning, you're just not going to want to do it if that's not what you want to do. But if you find a movement that you love doing, then you're just going to do it. So find whatever it is and be willing to try things out. You might never know that you love doing something.
And it doesn't have to be super intense, right? Like you could go for a walk, you could dance in your kitchen, like you could do like you could do Kundalini. That might be on the intense side for people, but not for me. But like just move more. we don't realize, like, even myself, who I'm like conscious of it, like some days I'm just like, holy shit, wait, did I move other than from like my desk to the different rooms in my house?
Yeah,
we don't realize
exactly.
it. You have to really like make time and make an effort.
Like go play tennis, go like
Yeah.
skateboarding, rollerblading,
Yeah.
swimming. Like there's so many good activities you can do, and do it with a friend, like add it into socializing as well. So it's simple.
Yeah.
They're simple. It's very accessible.
Yeah. So cook more at home and eat real foods. Get better sleep, potentially by removing technology from your space and face around bedtime, and move. And ideally, double whammy, move out in nature. Right?
Yeah.
Does
Get the
that
fresh
sum it up
air.
okay?
Yeah. Nailed it. Great summary.
Great. Free things to make a difference in your life. And then, with everything, and something that's always been exciting to me on this health journey is when you start to feel, you do the little things and start to feel a little bit of a difference, it always motivates more, because there's
That's it.
nothing better than like feeling good in your body, feeling energized, feeling like you're thinking clearly. Like there's actually nothing worth like sacrificing that.
Yeah, exactly. When you feel good, you feel so much better in yourself. You're like, I can do this. I can show up. Like, what else can I achieve?
Yeah. Love it. Love it.
Okay. Well, guys, enjoy this episode. Sammie lets you know how she can be connected with, and yeah, enjoy. Take your notebook out.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you on the other side.
Welcome, Sammie Mancine. Hi, girl.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
Lovely. I'm like, it's been a great morning so far.
Yeah, girl is charged up.
Maybe had a little too much caffeine this morning, but all is good.
What was your morning routine this morning?
Honestly, my morning routine involved me going to get coffee and then having about a 30-minute dance party. So that's not even exaggerating. That's how I woke up this morning.
She's gone into the day hot.
Yes. It's Friday. I wanted a dance party. That's probably my favorite way of waking up. So
What's
not
what's your normal morning routine?
normal morning routine is that I usually do sit out in the sun. I have a little patio out there. I now have one of those lettuce grows with my new sprouts and seedlings. So I spend about 15 minutes looking at all of my little plants and seeing what has grown while I drink my coffee. I get some sunshine. I keep my phone off. Depending, I just finished my last book, but sometimes I'll spend like the first 20, 30 minutes of my morning just reading. And it's nothing sciencey, nothing. It's just my fantasy reading to kind of stimulate more of my creativity vibes for the day.
Oh, I really like that, because I only read self-development books, and I'm not excited to read my books, but I know how beneficial they are. But I do wonder whether just having the fiction books or something else that's a story is more healing, or like it gives you more space to escape.
Yeah. I think it's different. Some mornings I'll wake up and listen to a podcast, but some other mornings when I want more of just a relaxation, today I need to do some creative work, so it's more of just getting those juices flowing. I think that's also why I started with my dance party. But yes, I think you need to find the balance, because especially when you're in this space, in the medicine space, we have a tendency to drown ourselves with the amount of information that we're receiving. And sometimes it can be overwhelming. Sometimes it can be more on the negative side. So finding that balance, I definitely think is important.
Yeah, so good. So good. Okay, I would love for you to just briefly introduce yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Sammie Mancine. I am a functional medicine nurse along with a holistic nutritionist. So I find the balance between functional medicine and holistic healing. I used to work in the hospital world, and I left that space pretty quickly. I was introduced to more of the naturopath type of medicine very young, and working in the hospital setting really helped show how different it was from what I had more so enjoyed with my own health journey. So that's what kind of made me step away from more of the hospital space and more into the functional and holistic space instead.
Thank you for sharing. it might make sense to also introduce how we met.
We met in Venice. So we met in at a gym. We met at a gym, and I was a trainer at the time because, again, I think I was in nursing school at the time as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
I was in nursing school. I wanted to find that balance to make sure that stress wasn't overwhelming me with school. So then I started working as a trainer and had that outlet of that physical movement on the day to day. So that's how I met you at a gym. And Maddie and I became obsessed with each other pretty quickly.
Oh, yeah.
And now you're just stuck with me because now you can't go anywhere.
I mean, 8 years later,
Is that how
still,
long it's been?
yeah, wow. Which I'm so grateful for. But I just remember you because you were just such a hard ass in the gym. Like, talk about a girl that knew how to work out. Like, you just went hard. I'm like, this girl knows what's up when it comes to movement, health, like really, really looking after yourself physically.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was definitely more of my outlet at that time. I was definitely more in the physical movement type of space, which again was finding me that balance. And when you're pumped up on endorphins and happy hormones all the time, it's very contagious. So it's very hard to get out of that cycle.
It is contagious. I think if you, and you get addicted to it, that feeling of just like what you get from the gym
The
and
dopamine.
the dopamine.
The dopamine highs were, I mean, you'd come see me by 8 a.m. I had already been up for hours. I had a dance party half of the classes. It was just fun, and it's fun when you're helping people feel good about themselves at the end of the day. So I think
Yeah.
that's also why it tied in so well, is because I wanted to become a nurse and a practitioner to help people feel good in their own bodies. And the gym, same thing. It was more of the physical health in a different way. So yeah.
So this has always been your guiding light. Like you've always wanted to help people feel good in their bodies, feel healthy.
Yes, I remember even as a kid, I used to be fascinated with just the human body in general. Um, I had broken my arm, I think 3 different times as a kid, and I was that nerd who I would ask the doctors to keep my x-rays because I was fascinated by it. So I'm like, most people would have like posters and girly pop things on the walls. I had x-rays because I thought it was fascinating.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah.
You just
But
want
no,
to
I'm like,
learn.
at the end of the day, the human body always fascinated me, and being able to help others feel good about themselves and feeling good in their own bodies is definitely my driving factor.
And do you find, okay, so you, as a nurse, how did that feel? Like, was that able to actually feel your need? Did you feel like you were helping people in their bodies?
In the hospital world, no. I was working, first I worked cardio and then I worked ICU. It, if anything, it was just very disheartening because I realized how much of a political game the hospital world was, and that disconnection of actually wanting to help individuals and helping them feel good about themselves and helping educate them. Where a lot of individuals that would come in wanted a prescription and wanted to leave immediately. They didn't want to sit around, they didn't want to learn, which I understand. But it was definitely a little disheartening because I found myself consistently coming home. At the beginning, it was great. I kept holding on to all the positives. But by the end of my journey, it was more, I kept finding myself coming home very drained, very disappointed, very upset, not in a good mental space. And I tried doing a couple things to shift it around, but it was definitely not where I wanted to be. And that's what made me leave in January of 2020 before all hell broke loose. Those last few months leading up to it, I kept realizing that I was coming back home in a horrible mood, and I'm a very happy human. So it was one of those things where when I know I'm not happy, I switch, I make a shift. I don't do this waiting game. I don't try and stick it out. I did make little transitions here and there, but I recognized that it just wasn't the space for me, and I ended up leaving that space and ended up working in a regenerative preventative med spa instead, which ended up being extremely eye-opening to me, and it made me realize that this was more of the space I wanted to focus on and help individuals who want to help themselves and take the control of their health back into their own hands and focus more on the preventative measures than the reactive measures.
Okay, so this difference between people coming into a hospital because it's like they just need something to treat an already established issue and they don't even care. Like they're like, I just need to get better, but I'm not willing to commit to thinking about the future versus people.
Yeah, so it's definitely a mix of individuals, but I found that the majority of people that I was trying to help in the hospital space were individuals who had been sick for years and years and years, kind of just waited for that next medication to help with them, weren't proactive with staying on the preventative side. And half these people, we were getting them out of surgery, and the first thing we're giving them is cheeseburgers and soda. And I'm sitting there like, how does no one see the disconnect? Why are we doing this? So it was just very disheartening.
If there's something that you could change, and I'm sure there's many, but maybe just one or two in the hospital system, what would it be?
Nutrition.
Wow.
The nutrition.
Like what's actually available in hospitals?
100%. I mean, the food, the vending machines, everything that we're feeding individuals in there is completely backwards to what we should be teaching and educating. And you have these nutritionists that will come in, or these registered dietitians that would come in and educate these patients after certain surgery and whatnot, but they're sitting there drinking their Coke, eating their burger, eating foods that benefit their health in no way, shape, or form. And I think the biggest part too is I used to work in this one area where we would deal with individuals who had just gotten either gastric bypass, and the first thing we feed them is Gatorade and Jello. And for me, I was like, that doesn't make any sense at all. I'm like, this provides no nutritional value. It's chemicals for the most part. This isn't food. Why aren't we giving them bone broth instead? Why aren't we giving something that's going to be healing to the body, that's going to provide those nutrients and vitamins and amino acids to help improve the healing? So I definitely think the number one is the nutrition, and making sure maybe it's almost having those hydroponic type of situation on the rooftop, or being able to grow their own food, doing more farm to table, or working with these farmers of nearby communities. But the food is just so backwards, and it really is sad and disheartening to see.
Oh, especially just for the sickest people, that's what's available, only just making them sicker. I mean, I always think about that when I'm on planes. I'm like, plane food is particularly bad. I turn around and look at the ingredients list. I'm like, what on earth? Like all the preservatives and the added things. It is outrageous what you're fed in these public spaces. And so that's what's displayed to you.
Yeah.
And whether that's just for cost reasons, but there has to be more education around that.
Yeah. And I will tap into the airplane food. Our taste buds change at higher elevation. So they also accommodate that, which is why they put in so much more sodium, so much more BS ingredients, to put it nicely. But it's because our taste buds do change, but it makes the food even worse.
Oh yeah, I know. I'm like, this is not edible.
Yeah, no, I'm like, any of my clients, and myself included, I just don't eat on airplanes, or if I do, I bring my own snacks, because it's going to destroy your gut. And then that's your jumpstart to your trip wherever you're going, is just having this inflamed gut. Nothing's really moving, and you just don't feel your best.
Yeah. Speaking of gut health, I mean, this is kind of what you specialize in, right? Like, how did you learn about that?
Yeah, so I was exposed to this world very early on. I was very fortunate for that. In high school, even in middle school and in elementary school, I experienced migraines pretty consistently. And back then I went to multiple neurologists, and these neurologists wanted to put me on different medications. They wanted to put me on beta blockers, antidepressants, anti-seizure medications. And thankfully, I was a very stubborn / still stubborn individual who questioned it. And I kept questioning these physicians, and I'm only 15 years old. And these physicians are like, oh, we're going to put you on this pill. And I'm sitting there, well, why? I'm like, I'm not depressed. I don't have heart issues, and I'm not having seizures. So why would I take these medications and potentially be on these medications for the rest of my life because they might help my migraines? Which, again, completely backwards. So I ended up seeing a naturopath, and the first thing she asked me was, well, what do you eat? You're 15. Back then, we weren't exposed to the amount of education we are now, and I kind of laughed at her and I was like, what do you mean? I eat whatever I want. And I'm like, I'd eat Jack in the Box and I would eat Sonic and I would eat all these fast foods because I'm 15. And she's like, well, no. And she had to sit me down and have this new discussion with me and help me understand that our nutrition very much has an impact on our health and could very much be a trigger for my migraines. So we ended up switching out my nutrition, did a 180, and within a few months, my migraines dropped in half. And I was like, oh, okay, there's some science behind this. This makes sense. So that's kind of what jumpstart my entire journey, and all during college, everything. I kept studying nutrition because I was fascinated by it. And I was like, well, if me switching my nutrition around can have this much of an impact on my migraines and prevent me from taking anti-seizure medications or antidepressants, why wouldn't I want to keep learning about it? And why wouldn't I want to keep trying to hack my own health to see how I can do this in more of a holistic way instead of relying on any pills? So I was very fortunate to realize that our gut health and our nutrition has a lot of influence on the rest of our well-being.
But imagine if you hadn't asked those questions or gone and seen a naturopath, because you're 15 years old, so you're maybe going by your parents' guidance. Like, how did you make that decision? And also tying in, like, how accessible do you think naturopaths are to people?
Yeah, so it's one of those things where you have to see it as more of an investment. And I was extremely lucky to stick to my gut and listen to my gut and not go for the pills because, again, I was 15. I didn't want to be on pills for the rest of my life. You find pride in not having to take pills for X, Y, and Z. So again, if I would not have done that, who knows where I would be right now, and who knows how many medications I'd probably add to that list, because with medications comes more side effects, and more side effects comes more issues.
What do you know much about naturopaths? Like, what they have to study, what they have to know? Like, is this someone we really would trust?
Yeah. So again, every physician, every practitioner, listen to your gut, because even though we're all fed similar, different variations of it, each person is very different too. And some individuals may connect well with one practitioner more so than another. You need to make sure you have that relationship, that you can be open and you feel that you're being heard too, because no one wants to work with a practitioner and telling them that they don't want to be doing this and they want to be focusing on this, and their practitioner is saying, well, no, that's not right. We're going to do this instead. So you have to have that collaborative type of relationship. But when it comes to naturopaths, they are extremely well educated. So they are very well educated, and of course, each state has its restrictions on what they're allowed to practice and what they're allowed to do, but you can find affordable naturopath practitioners to work with. It's one of those things, though, where you just have to really prioritize this lifestyle, and you have to think of it as an investment, because you're either going to pay a little bit more now and stay more on the preventative side, or you're going to get sick later on and you're going to have to pay, and it's not going to be fun. And it's going to be having to pay for different treatments or different prescriptions. And you might as well enjoy it if you're staying on the preventative side and using that investment, because now you can go to a grocery store and you spend $150 for a week's worth of food in some places. I'm like, you and I live in California right now, so it's definitely one of those things where you get these bills and you're shocked, but when you look at it for when it comes to your own health, it's an investment. You have to make the moves.
Truly. When you can see investing in your health as like the most important thing, like it is so important. I mean, it is really hard to speak from such a privileged position of us being able to afford to make healthier choices. And obviously there's places where people can't, but I guess that just comes down to education and knowing like what they can get that's better, and avoiding as much processed food as possible.
Yeah, and again, making sure you're working with a practitioner you trust. You want to work with someone that you trust, and you want to work with someone that is going to listen to you. And if you don't want to take a certain pill, or if you don't want to do something, they're able to make a pivot and adjust to best suit what you need. Because again, you can't just push one thing on all individuals. Each person is very different in how they approach their health. So you do need to have that flexibility.
say someone is experiencing digestive issues, like they're constantly bloated, they have trouble maybe going to the bathroom, they like feeling gas, like all of these, I mean, this is stuff I hear from my clients often. And what would be the first thing that you would suggest them to do?
The first thing we usually do is remove. So we kind of look at your nutrition, your supplement game, your stress, your sleep. We want to see what we can remove before we add, because a lot of times now, the first thing people want to know is, well, what supplement can I take? What pill can I take to fix this? And sorry, but supplements are not the new pills. We're not playing that game. So it's one of those things where we need to look at what we can remove. Are you drinking a lot of alcohol? Are you eating a lot of fast foods? Are you eating foods that are high in sodium and preservatives? And out of all of these packaged, out of the grocery store where everything is packaged and highly processed? Are you not sleeping? Is your stress through the roof? So it's kind of finding what things we can remove from your everyday to come down to a baseline before we start introducing other things. So when it comes to the gut, if anyone's dealing with inflammation, bloating, constipation, again, the first thing I'm going to look at is your nutrition, your sleep, your stress, your movement. Because again, if you're eating highly processed foods, you are living a more sedentary lifestyle because you're in an office all day, your stress is through the roof. We need to see what changes we can do and what things we can remove from your everyday to kind of bring everything down a little bit.
And would you say, like, would going to a doctor be helpful here? Like, are there tests and things that you need, or is it better for you to be working with, you know, someone like you, like a coach or a naturopath?
It depends. Some individuals have the ability to do the research and figure out, okay, maybe I'm going to do a nice little 2-week gut reset. I'm going to remove all processed foods. I'm not going to drink alcohol. I'm going to take control. I'm going to make my food, keep it to whole, nutrient-dense foods in their most natural form, and see how my body responds. Some individuals are more complicated. Some individuals, especially if anyone who has IBS, which IBS is not a disease, it's very much an umbrella term. It's an umbrella term because they don't know what's going on, but about 70% of people who do have IBS actually have SIBO, where it's bacteria just in the wrong location. So for some of those individuals, they may need more of an intervention, and they may need that extra support to work with a practitioner and take that control, or need someone to feed ideas with. So it really depends on the individual. Some individuals can take that control, other individuals need the support.
How would you know if you had IBS or SIBO?
You can do a breath test. So thankfully now there are different platforms that allow you to do your own testing, which again, it's out of pocket. And I do try to help my clients work with their insurance companies if they have that. So that way they're not spending so much money up front. But you can do at-home gut health tests. There's one from Genova Diagnostics that I really, really like. That's more of like this GI map. That's everything from inflammation, dysbiosis, your metabolic activity. And then you have those with SIBO where you can do an at-home or go into a clinic and do a breath test where you basically fast, eat some sugar, and then it tests your breath every few minutes, hours, it depends on the test. But you're seeing how your body breaks it down, because with SIBO, it's not that it's bad bacteria, it's just bacteria in the wrong location. And what's happening is as it's breaking down those foods, it's releasing gases that shouldn't be present, resulting in this bloating and this uncomfortable feeling. And I have some individuals who after a meal, they look like they're 6 months pregnant because of how intense it can be. So it just depends again on the individual.
And then the IBS and SIBO can literally be cured through changing your diet?
It can be nutrition, it could be motility. So if your gut isn't moving as efficiently as it should be, if your stomach acid is on the lower side where you need that extra support to make sure that bacteria doesn't get into that small intestine. So there's, again, it just depends on the individual, but for the most part, you can, obviously each person is different. Some individuals may need more of that intervention, but if you have the right education, or if you have the ability to be patient and find different modalities to see what will work and not work with your body, I definitely think it's the most important.
Would you see a lot of this in the hospital?
I saw more intense issues. I saw a lot of morbidities. I saw a lot of individuals with 3, 4 plus diseases at a time. And at that point, their health has just gotten so bad that yes, you can start with the nutrition, but it's going to be more of that mental game of really having to be on top of it because it's going to be a long journey. It's not going to be easy because once you get one disease and then a second and then a third, it's going to take some time. So, and again, we're not a very patient culture.
Yeah. What do you think you're seeing the most of, or what do you think as like in society the biggest health problems we're seeing the most of?
I mean, the majority of individuals do have gut issues in some capacity. I do think that the gut is the foundation to your health. So a lot of these other diseases, I go right back to the gut first before we kind of focus on other symptoms. Colon cancer, I'm starting to see pop up left and right. Cancer in general, I'm starting to see left and right. When it comes to the gut, definitely leaky gut. The majority of individuals, I feel like, are experiencing it in some capacity. Poor sleep. Sleep is, no one sleeps anymore.
What's that about? Anxiety? Too much on our phones?
Technology, stress. I mean, I'm a stickler. There is no technology in the bedroom. There's no TV.
Yeah.
There's no phone. I even keep my phone in the kitchen. I do not keep any technology in the bedroom because we should not be waking up and immediately grabbing our phone, immediately being exposed to blue light, immediately scrolling and seeing these horrible news articles left and right. Especially now we're in politics season. So that's also the last thing you want to be doing right before bed. And you don't want to be looking at all of this right before you bed because it is going to stress us out. It is going to mess with our cortisol. It is going to make us super anxious. And when our gut and our brain go hand in hand, so when the gut's upset, the mind's upset, and vice versa.
Yeah, I don't think it's people fully understand how much it's actually affecting you. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it's so accessible to just pick up your phone and you maybe are picking your phone up to do something or have a quick scroll. But a quick scroll is not always just a quick scroll. And there's so much more that comes of that. Like, you never feel good after that. Like, you put your phone down, you feel more stressed, you feel more anxious, and you feel drained. And it's like, if we can take that out, like, imagine how much better we could feel.
100%. One of my favorite things I like to implement, not only with myself, but with my clients, are digital detoxes, where I tell them, like, if you're going to go on a hike, leave your phone behind. Leave your phone behind. If you are going to go on a hike, turn off everything, spend a few hours in nature, and you'll find a lot of individuals will feel this phantom vibration and they'll reach for their phone when it's not even there. So it's definitely interesting on how much it's trained us because our technology, social media, it's meant to be addicting. It's meant for us to keep grabbing it. How many times have you grabbed your phone and automatically swiped to Instagram or TikTok or something and you're like, I didn't even know I was doing that.
It's completely subconscious. And once it becomes subconscious, like, that's when you're just not in control.
Absolutely. So digital detoxes, my absolute favorite, especially if you're a high anxiety individual and your sleep is off, cut the technology for a little bit. Pick up a book. Even reading can drop your stress down by 60% in 15 minutes. So reading, doing something that's going to be more nurturing. I have one of those color by numbers when I do find I have more anxiety ridden days. And I will literally sit there and paint my little color by number because it helps just turn off my mind.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. What's your favorite?
I would say that I think for me, I really enjoy journal writing. I'm like, okay, what's going
You
on
are
in my
a journaler.
head?
Yeah.
I just love it. I love just reflecting and just like, I feel like it takes it out of my head and just onto the paper. So writing is helpful for me. And then the power of just going for a walk without a phone is just to be able to, the surrender of leaving your phone behind. And there's moments where you're like, oh, no, but someone might need to contact me, but I might need to check the time. It's like, no, you freaking don't. Like, you can take 20 minutes and go for a walk without your phone. Like, it will be
100%.
fine. And I just notice now that when I don't have my phone on me, I just genuinely stop and smell the roses. And it's like, oh my God, appreciate nature. I like admire people's gardens, admire people's homes, like just snooping and just like that mindfulness, being present.
Yeah.
I come home like, okay, I'm back, I'm reset.
Yep. I find that even when I'm meeting with certain friends too, I make a very conscious effort not to touch my phone. And when I'm present, I'm present. Because also nothing's worse than you're trying to have a lunch date or a friend day and you see them consistently reaching for their phone where you're not being present. You are very disconnected. And again, it's just adding more stress and anxiety where just turn it off. Turn it off. 30 minutes. It'll be okay.
We need to bring that game back. We used to play this where everyone, if we'd group dinners, everyone would have to put their phone in the middle of the table, all on a pile together. And the first person to try and touch their phone had to pay for the entire bill.
Yeah.
That's like ultimate punishment. That's such a test. It's like who's the most addicted?
Yeah, but it's true. And the majority of us are in some capacity. And I know you and I both go to Burning Man. I haven't been in a few years, but the last time I went to Burning Man, I turned off my phone. I had it on airplane mode the entire week, to the point in which I didn't even know my battery life would last the entire week. I was genuinely impressed with that.
Whoa.
But I know, but it was that first 2 days, I kept feeling it vibrate. And I was like, it's not vibrating. It's not, but it's this phantom obsession that we just are so addicted to it. And by the end of the week, I was so zenned out. And of course, you have to come back. You have to get back to work. You're on the emails. You're doing the FaceTime. And I realized my anxiety and stress was through the roof on the week coming back. And it was because I had just spent a week completely off technology, being fully present. And now I'm getting pulled in 20 different directions. So it was very eye-opening where I made the conscious effort after that of spending certain days where I just turn off my phone. For me, the second it hits like 8, 9 p.m., I turn off my phone and I put it away. I won't touch it. I won't look at it. Even if I do wake up in the middle of the night or anything, I refuse to look at my phone. I refuse to look at the time too, because I don't want to stress myself out. But it's wild how addicted we are to these phones.
Yeah. I like your tactic of always being on Do Not Disturb.
Yeah, always. I'm like, we were talking about this before we hopped on this, but I don't have notifications for emails, text messages, phone calls, any social media. If I look on the platform and I see it, great. But because I'm such a person who, once I see it, I need to respond immediately, I realized that I kept making me grab my phone 10 times the amount of times that I was before or now. Yeah. So I was constantly on my phone, constantly responding, and I wasn't getting any work done. And now I just keep everything off, and it brings me so much peace of mind.
It's actually so calming. I think taking away that feeling of urgency, like we're not always needed. We don't, oh my gosh, I have to do this now. I have to contact this person, that, when you just get that ping in your head and you reach for your phone because you've got to do it. It's like this surrender, like release this feeling of urgency. It's like get to those things when you want to get to those things or when you've got time, but focus on the task at hand.
Absolutely.
Great little deep rabbit hole we went down. But I want to go back to you and talking about your transition from being a nurse, working in the hospital, a very, what I imagine, demanding job. And like you've got to be on, you've got to be there, to then becoming a coach and living the lifestyle and the profession you've got now.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't an easy journey because nurses are not meant, or we're not taught to think for ourselves. We're not taught to be these entrepreneurs or be able to work for ourselves. We're taught to listen to what the doctor says, double check any prescriptions, because if anything goes wrong, it's on you. And it's very much just, if A happens, do B, do C, and that's it. And again, it just became so much of a political game that I wanted to help people. I wanted to help people feel good. I didn't want to make sure that we kicked them out of the room at a certain day because they're not able to pay with insurance and X, Y, and Z, where it's one of those things where you need the balance, and it just wasn't that. So it was definitely a difficult transition at the beginning, and thankfully I was working in a regenerative preventative med spa at the time. So it was kind of this slow transition. I was doing more nutrition, I was educating myself more, I was doing more courses. I'm constantly doing courses, but then I realized I was working, or I was meeting these people who wanted that extra support and they wanted to work more one-on-one. So I was very fortunate in my exposure to this world and this realm, and working in a space where, yeah, I was doing IVs, but people were excited to see me, and people were happy, and people weren't depressed, and I'm not under LED lights 24/7 and eating horrible cafeteria food and working before the sun comes up to after the sun goes down, and not seeing the sun some of the days unless it was through hospital windows. So I remember the first few weeks I was working in this space. Again, this was a huge transition from the hospital world, because I had gone into this clinic for myself to get an IV. And I'm looking at all these people and I'm like, why are you guys so happy? Why is this such a peaceful environment? Instead of bells going off, phones going off, doctors yelling at you. So it was one of those things where it was very shocking to the system. And when I went to go get the IVs, I realized that, oh, are you guys hiring? This is a space that I actually would really like to work in. And thankfully, I actually knew one of the nurses that also worked there, so she helped me transition into this space. And from there, again, I was working as an employee. And the first few weeks, again, I had my manager. I ended up getting really sick. I got COVID right at the beginning. I got COVID end of March 2020. And I didn't know. I thought it was just the flu on crack. So, and of course, I'm working a new job. I can't be calling off. So I kind of just had to like suck it up and keep working. And I remember on my lunch breaks, she would put me in a separate room, hook me up to an IV, turn off the lights, and would let me nap on my lunch break, and then wake me up to work in the afternoon. And I'm like, this would have never happened in the hospital. I would have called them like telling them I'm dying, and they're like, cool, so we'll see you in an hour. So it was a very, very different experience, and that kind of helped jumpstart me into this whole work for myself, helping clients one-on-one, which again, no nurse is taught how to do this. So it was very trial and error and seeing what worked and what didn't work. And even now, I'm still constantly making pivots to best match what my clients need. So it's definitely a long game, but if you're dedicated and if you love what you do, it's at least you can enjoy it along the way.
Yeah. Yeah. What is it that you love about your work now?
Same thing. I just like helping people feel good in themselves. I like helping individuals take the control back of their health. I like helping individuals feel that they're being heard, because I think that's the biggest issue too, is most people don't feel that they're being heard by their practitioners, and it gets very disheartening on them. And they get to the point where they end up accepting their fate. They take whatever pill that they are being prescribed and they don't question it. So I'm very big on helping my clients use their voice and question and finding other modalities of treatment if they need that.
You're a big modalities girl. What are some of the modalities that you use and swear by?
Saunas.
Oh, so good.
Saunas are I think I'm borderline addicted to saunas, but nothing helps me feel better. Especially if you've had a stressful, anxious day, you get to sweat it out, you get to lay down, your muscles relax, everything relaxes, that my sleep gets 10 times better that evening. Nothing makes me feel better than saunas.
Wow.
And I know most individuals with the saunas like to tie it with the cold plunges, and will I do cold plunges? Yes. Do I enjoy them? Absolutely not.
Oh,
So I prefer saunas over anything.
you're not a cold plunge girl.
No. If anything, I'll do cryo. I like
Yes.
cryo over cold plunge. But saunas will always be my my little gold. I'm like,
Yeah.
I love my saunas.
What other modalities do you try or use?
I've tried everything. I like ozone therapy, IV therapy, hyperbaric chambers, any type of lymphatic massage. I'm definitely a stress management girl where stress, I believe, is the underlying cause of most diseases because of the chronic inflammation that it results in. And I do think it's one of those secret killers that we just always disregard and put on the back burner. But our nervous system needs support. And in an environment or world where we're constantly stressed out, I think it needs to be prioritized. So I'm definitely a self-care junkie.
I know. I know. It's incredible how much you focus on self-care.
Oh yeah. If anyone talks to me, I'm like, yeah, we can meet for a sauna. We could have. I love my wellness dates where it's if you want to meet up, okay, cool. We're gonna go for a walk. We're gonna do a sauna. We're gonna do acupuncture. We're gonna go get some IVs together. So I'm definitely one of those individuals.
I mean, so lucky to be able to do that. And, I know, again, speaking to privilege, so lucky that we have time, space, accessibility, knowledge, and able to do those things. But, if you were to say to someone who maybe didn't have accessibility to all of these stuff, like what would just be the more basic approach?
Working out, movement. Most of us now, the average American spends 93% of their life indoors. We do not spend any time in nature. We do not move our bodies. We're behind computers all day long. So one of the best things you can do for your health is move your body. Go outside, go for a hike, do some stretching before bed. It doesn't need to be expensive. A lot of times we think that we have to be doing the hyperbaric, we have to be doing IVs, no, you don't. It can be very, very simple of just bringing it down to the basics. Mm-hmm. Take off your shoes, be barefoot outside, go for a hike, go do a workout where you don't even have to go join any of these memberships. There's so many free workouts now on YouTube that you can go and follow. You can do some Pilates, some yoga, you can do some weights at home. So that alone will be a huge game changer on your health.
Yeah. And I think that's so important for people not to see any barriers to being healthy. Like, I can't be healthy because I can't afford certain things, or I just don't know. But it really can be so simple.
100%. It depends on who you ask. Because again, you have those individuals who are very much in the biohacking world and they think you need to be doing all of these different treatments. And don't get me wrong, those are great and they're fantastic, but you can bring it back to the basics. Eat foods in their most natural state. Move your body. Spend time in nature. Remove technology and get some sleep. And you might find that your health does a 180 just doing that alone.
That's it. That's it. Bring it back to the basics. And nature is such a huge part of it. I was in Oregon this week and the air is just so clean and fresh that you could just feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the water's clearer. You just notice it. You're like, okay, if I can just get closer to nature, I can just feel healthier.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So, Sammie, what are you working on now?
In life or for work?
Well, yeah, please enlighten us. We do want to know more about your personal life.
So right now for work, I do personalized protocols. I work one-on-one with clients. I have clients all around the world. In the US, down in South America, over in the Middle East, Europe. So I work privately one-on-one, and that's more for individuals who need that extra support and need that extra, not only accountability, but they need someone to bounce ideas with and help to be able to work with their own practitioners if they work with different physicians. So I do that, and I have a horrible business model because my entire business model is about educating you as much as possible to the point where you do not need me. And again, I'm like, everyone I speak to, they're like, that's a horrible business model. I'm like, yeah, but that's at the end of the day, that's all I want is I want to help educate you and teach you to where you can take that control back to your hands. And if you do need me again, I'm more than happy to help support you in any capacity. But again, I want to be able to give you all of the tools so that way you have that control again. Because nothing feels worse than when you do not have control of your own health. And then the other option I have is I have a wellness app called Functional Social Club where it connects our users directly to medical practitioners. And it's to bridge that gap. And I try to bring in a different practitioner each week. I brought in you this last week.
Oh,
and
yeah.
we want to be able to provide our community the support and the education so that way they don't feel that they're lost. They don't feel that they need that extra or they don't know what to do or where to start. So we kind of give them all the basics. So everything from your nutrition, foods to include, foods to avoid, herbal protocols, and different practitioners again, we try to provide all of it because I truly don't think that our health should be expensive. And I do think everyone should have an affordable option to be able to access this information. So that is my two biggies.
Yeah, I love that you guys are making it accessible for people because that's such a block. Like if I think that, I feel like something's up with me or any of my clients, they're, as we were speaking about before, they're having digestive issues, they're having skin issues, they're having something that maybe they need more help with than just like speaking it with a coach, and they want to get some testing done. It's so hard to know where to start. Like just to go to your doctor. I mean, I've had that before. Like my doctor was going to put me on cholesterol medicine at 25 years old. And she's like, your cholesterol is like really high. And it's like, okay, well, what changes your cholesterol? Your diet. So like, instead of putting me on medication, like let's talk about my diet. Within a year, I had got my cholesterol down to absolutely fine levels just by adjusting my diet,
Which
cutting
is
out.
Fantastic.
Yeah, like cutting out processed meats. I mean, back then I was eating like sliced ham and sausages and like eggs every day. Like, I mean, I was 25 years old and I was just drinking a lot of alcohol.
Yeah.
And once you know that you and maybe not always, right? But like if you at least try that first, like start with your diet, you're just so much more empowered to take control of your own health. But
Absolutely.
yeah, like we say, you're now knowing who to be able to speak to and who can help you when doctors aren't telling you what might help you.
Yeah, absolutely. And the biggest addition that we have for Functional Social Club is that when you do sign up, you get a free 30-minute coaching call with either of us. So we try and help individuals realize that they have the support to jumpstart their journey. So that way they have that guideline of, okay, this is the direction I should be going. This is what I should be doing. Because again, it is a lot of information and it can be very overwhelming. And when you have my people listening to TikTok trends or Google searching their WebMD and realizing they have 3 months left to live, it can be very overwhelming. So it's one of those things where I'm like, no, Functional Social Club is to not only give you a community of like-minded individuals, but you're also having access to these practitioners and you also have that one-on-one support right from the beginning. So you are not alone.
Mm-hmm. That's so good. So good. Such a great resource. And I think something that we're going to start seeing a lot more of. I just feel, and maybe it's just because we're in the industry, but it feels like people care so much more about health now.
Yes.
Like, have you seen that shift?
Yes, and I do think COVID was as horrible as the entire COVID situation was, I do think it made a lot of individuals realize how backwards our system is and how we do have the capacity to take back that control of our health in different ways. Because, I could go down the rabbit hole on that, but
Yeah.
I think it definitely shed some light there.
Yeah. No, you're exactly right, because people saw like a direct impact, like, oh, I can get sick in a second, like, and that could be fatal. So how can I look after my health now? And I don't know, changing up the environment, like being, stuck at home. I know I decided to stop drinking during that period. I was like, well, I'm not missing out on anything. Nothing else is happening. So I'm just going to stop drinking alcohol and see how I feel. A whole year off alcohol, I was like, oh my God, what? This feels amazing. And home cooked meals, like, of course, like that is now the standard that I've set for the rest of my life, because it's like, you know how good you feel. So people had a chance to like adjust.
Yeah, absolutely. It was wild seeing the transition, and some individuals' health went the opposite direction, but then they had this light at the end of the tunnel. And then you have these other individuals who They're like, well, we're not going out. I might as well cook every meal. I might as well take up baking or taking up. A lot of people discovered new hobbies all during this time. But we're
Oh my
gonna do
God.
workouts on the computer. We're gonna be doing these different tools just to kind of break it up. Otherwise, we were just at home all day long.
Yeah,
But I,
making sourdough.
yeah. I was very, very lucky during COVID to be able to work in a regenerative med spa during that time. So I was very fortunate in that world, and I was going to the sauna, I think like 3 times a week during those first months, and
Wow.
that's kind of what kept my balance. But otherwise, yeah, I saw individuals' health get fantastic, and I saw the opposite, but they all saw the light at the end of the tunnel, and I do think it really showed some light on what was backwards and how individuals can take that control back.
What are your, and I guess we've kind of talked about this, but maybe like what are your non-negotiables in a day of like looking after yourself? Or maybe in a week?
In a week, I always do something for I'm definitely a spa junkie. If I'm either going to a Korean spa or if I'm doing some yoga, or I'm very selfish with my self-care. And I think more people should be selfish with their self-care. I don't think it should have this negative association. I think that we do need to prioritize our self-care. And if we do not do that, we don't have the capacity to take care of anyone else. So we don't have
Yeah.
the capacity to be able to exert any other energy towards anyone. So I'm definitely either I sauna or I do something for myself every week, if not every day. So,
No, that's
and
such a good point.
yeah. And again, it could be as simple as just going for a walk around the block without my phone.
Yeah.
It can
Yeah.
be as simple as spending an afternoon dancing on the beach, which I have absolutely done and been that weirdo because I do not care.
You're a big dancer. We love this.
It's not cute dancing either. It's just, there's nothing cute about it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. But it makes you feel good. And
Yeah. I'm like, those silent discos on the beach were my absolute favorite. I know Maddie and I have both been to them. But we had a girlfriend who used to host these silent discos on the beach, and I think it was every Friday or it was once a week.
mm-hmm.
And you would just go out there and boogie, and people would stare at you like you were a complete weirdo, and no one cared. Nobody
I know
cares. At the end of the day, no one cares.
in the beginning it feels so edgy. You're like, oh my God, this feels so awkward. I can't believe I'm just like going for it. But then you just get into it. Like you're fully in the zone. And as soon as you just
Yeah.
surrender, just let go. Oh, it feels so good.
I remember I brought my mom one time, and my
Oh,
mom was like, "This is bizarre. Like, we're not doing this." And then, for whatever reason, they were playing all 70s music, which was her jam.
yes.
And she was having I mean, I have the best photos of her because she was thriving.
Yes. Go, mum. Oh my God, my mum would kill me if I brought her there. So much resistance. Oh my gosh. Okay, Sammy, I'm going to ask you the final question. If you can explain in one word or a sentence your past self, your present self, and your future self.
There's 2 words that come to mind. Either stubborn, and it's more so being stubborn where if something doesn't sit right, you do something to shift it. It's something where you question, you listen. No, actually, I take it back. I take it back.
Okay, but this is like you're doing them separate. So who was your past self? Who was your present self?
Past
Who
self
is
would
your...
be stubborn.
Okay, yeah, I see that.
That would definitely be stubborn, would be my word. I refused to listen to anything that was given to me. I questioned everything. I was very stubborn, which I think is what led me to where I'm at today. Present self. Ooh, what would be a good word for present self? I feel like just embracing change, being okay with change. Um, I think that would be the biggest because, again, the only constant is change. So being in tune with that when it comes to your career, when it comes to your health, just allowing it to maybe it goes up, maybe it goes down, but just embracing the change. And then future, listen to the gut. I think that would just be it's not a word, it's a saying, but always listen
That's
to the
good.
gut. The gut is never wrong. Gut is, I mean, it has millions of nerve endings. It is very much our second brain. And I think if you listen to your gut, it will help you lead you in the direction you need to be.
I love that. Physically and mentally.
Yeah, absolutely. Because again, I mean, I work with clients and they're like, well, I don't know about this, I don't know about that. And my first question, I'm like, what does your gut say? Because if your gut, I'm like, $20, your gut does say something, go with it. I'm like, don't question it, go with it. Because the gut, anytime I've ever gone against my gut, something bad has happened. So just listen to your gut.
It's so true. It's like, oh, you'll keep ignoring your intuition. Like that, it's literally telling you something. Like it's so. And even I find when it's like, when you see a certain food, you're like, I don't really want to eat that. It's like your gut knows. Like you actually, it's so connected. It's like, don't eat it. Don't eat it if it doesn't feel good. Don't eat it if you're craving it.
Have you ever found that after you've eaten a certain food that gave you food poisoning, and now when you see that food, you immediately get nauseous?
Yeah.
That's literally because your bacteria told your brain, don't ever do that again. Your body
allergic to that now.
knows more than you realize, and once you become more in tune with that, you can make those better decisions. But yeah, you got to listen to it.
Yeah, because there's not right or wrong. Everyone's different, right? But so if you can just understand your own body, just trust it.
Always listen to the gut.
Oh, what a powerful message to end on.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you. This was fun today.
I know this was fun. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for sharing some juicy information, which I think is going to be super helpful for people and such a good reminder.
Yeah, because again, everyone can take that control back with their health. They really can, but listen to your gut. See what you can remove first before you add. And if you do need that extra support, reach out. There's people that are going to find you, whether it's me, whether it's you. There is someone that is going to help support you along your journey.
You're spot on. And in saying that, how can people find you?
Yeah, so either on Instagram or social media or TikTok at Sammie Mancine, SammieMancine, or go straight to my website, www.sammiemancine.com. And if anyone does have any questions or want to do a free consultation with me, you can do so right on either there's a link on my app or on there's a link on social media, or there is direct contact via my website.
Amazing. And people can find the Functional Social Club through your website.
Correct. Yes.
We love it. Amazing. Thanks, Sammie.
Of course. Thank you.
We love you. We appreciate you. We'll see you later.